Were you one of those kids who didn't like to study and hated going to school? Well, guess what? There was a time when it was illegal to educate yourself. Just imagine getting fined, imprisoned, or even getting your fingers cut off simply because you were reading or owned a book. Well, this law didn't apply to everyone. It specifically was applied to Black people during the Antebellum period. I know you're gonna get something out of this, so before moving any further, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and please turn on notifications so you never miss a new video when it drops. Now let's get the video started. Many slave states made it illegal for Blacks to learn to read or write during the Antebellum period, which spanned from 1815 to 1861. Today, you wouldn't even think twice before reading or buying a book, but at that time, it was considered one of the highest grade crimes. Violation of this law meant being whipped or brutally beaten. Some even had fingers or toes cut off. Many states imposed fines, which slaves obviously couldn't afford, so some went to jail for up to 6 months. I know this sounds completely absurd, and you must be thinking, what harm could reading do that America had to go to such an extreme level? Well, slavery in and of itself was despicably absurd and inhumane. But there were some major reasons behind these anti-literacy laws. Let me break it down for you. Whites never wanted Black people to be on their level, let alone be superior to them. White people justified slavery based on perceived economic necessity, their racist views, and warped biblical interpretations, among other things. White people knew that once Black people got educated, they would challenge the justification of their enslavement. Their whole agenda was to keep slaves from becoming leaders, organizing, and revolting. It's pretty clear from all this that these white people never imagined freeing the slaves, and to support their agenda, they did everything they possibly could to ensure Black people stayed ignorant and hoped that they'd remain slaves forever. Little did they know that wasn't going to happen, because tyranny is never everlasting, and the slaves were meant to fight for their freedom sooner or later. Anti-literacy laws also arose from the concerns that slaves who could read and write could forge the documents required to escape to a free state. So fear of the slaves achieving freedom was a driving force behind these savage laws. According to Berkeley professor William M. Banks, many slaves who learned to write actually achieved freedom in this way. While these slaves used trickery to liberate themselves, others resorted to brute violence. In 1831, Nat Turner, a literate slave, led a rebellion resulting in the killing of around 55 whites. The revolt set off a massacre of up to 200 Black people and a new wave of oppressive legislation prohibiting the education, movement, and assembly of slaves. Virginia declared illegal any meetings to teach free African Americans to read or write. In Georgia, they had gone so far as to restrict Blacks from getting jobs related to reading and writing. That's how afraid they were of revolution. And we can see that by the fact that the United States is the only country to ever instate anti-literacy laws. Unsurprisingly, every slave state got terrified and wanted to snatch any ray of hope of freedom from Black people. In the antebellum South, it's estimated that only 10% of enslaved people could read. Amongst slaveholders, there was a growing belief that an educated enslaved person was a dangerous person. So eventually all states signed off on anti-literacy laws except Maryland, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Despite all these dreadful and crippling laws, many brave slaves eager to read and write would steal bit by bit from a book and arrange the words together to teach themselves. They would feel empowered and experience intellectual freedom through reading. I cannot imagine what it would have been like to be a slave, but as a person who absolutely loves books and loves to read, I would be torn apart if I couldn't read. You must be thinking that all of this happened centuries ago. Why does it matter anymore? Because Blacks have already got their freedom and their rights. Well, let me explain it in simple terms. a subsection of white people in the 1800s were educated and progressive. It's a given that they educated their children and encouraged them to contribute to the ever-changing world. But even those who were not still had the opportunity, however remote, to educate themselves and achieve upward mobility. However, on the other hand, the majority of blacks were slaves. Black people collectively were savagely robbed of generations worth of money, progress, and development. It took many decades for black people to eventually have a fighting chance to thrive in America. Going back to the abolition of slavery, even after slaves were freed, they were hit with the black codes and Jim Crow laws. They were denied the most basic of human rights, denied jobs, denied housing, denied educational opportunities. Yes, it's a free world today, but you absolutely cannot expect blacks to miraculously close the gap resulting from centuries of oppression. As equal, if not more of an effort, needs to be put towards the restoration of black people as was put towards our dehumanization and destruction. On that note, it's time to end this video. If you want to keep getting such eye-opening content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever I drop a new video. Let me know in the comments below what other absurd laws or criminal cases you want me to break down. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching. Until next time, peace.